Hey everyone, welcome back to the Mandy channel. This case that we have coming up is really quite fascinating. It's been in the news, and that is because the parolee did this crime when he was 15 years old. So we'll go over all the news articles and documents at the end of the hearing, and I'll also include them in the description. But with that, let's go.
The Committee on Parole is called back to order. Today's date is the 11th day of January, 2023. The time is 10:18. Our next case is going to be Mr. Damien J Riley. Mr. Riley, would you give us your full name and DOC number, please?
Damien J Riley, 370710.
Thank you. Mr. Riley, I'd like to explain our process to you. First, I'm going to read some information into the record, and then the board is going to conduct a parole interview with you. At the appropriate time, we will allow the participants who've indicated they wish to speak to have their input. At the end, you'll be allowed to make a brief statement before the board votes. Do you understand our procedure, sir?
Yes, sir.
Those persons speaking on your behalf today would be Mr. Andrew Hunley, your attorney, Ms. Jane Hogan, and your father, Mr. Danny Jones Jr. You also have in person here in our facility the following people who are not going to speak, but they're here supporting you. Ms. Melvina Jones, your mother, Ms. Mandrell Riley, your aunt, Mr. Lionel Walker, your uncle, Ms. Sephora Hoppy, your cousin, Danny Jones, your brother, Durnell Jones, your brother, Donnie Metz, your brother, Kwanzaa Green, your cousin, Melva Green, your cousin, Negus Green, a friend, and Chico Yancey, who is here to support you as well. And at Angola, you have with you Mr. Darren Shivers, who is a friend, Terrence Wynn, who is a friend, Frederick Thompson, who is a friend, and Sean Williams, who is also a friend, as well as Willie Plater and Fred Thompson, both friends of yours. In opposition, we have Miss Kathy Lanou, who is the sister of the victim, and Miss Tracy Barbera, who is the assistant district attorney for East Baton Rouge Parish. I'm going to read into the record Mr. Damien J Riley, 370710. Is his DOC number. Date of birth is December the 13th of 1978. He is classified as a first-time felony offender. He has a parole eligibility date of November the 10th of 2020. He's not entitled to good time. He's serving a life sentence on the charge of second-degree murder, having been resentenced on January 22nd of 2018. Mr. Riley, is all of that information accurate?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Riley, your case was assigned to me, so I'll be the one to begin our interview process. Okay? How old are you, Mr. Riley?
44.
And how long have you been in prison?
28 years.
How old were you when you committed this crime?
15.
Tell me a little bit about your education, Mr. Riley. How far have you gone in school?
Before I was incarcerated, I was in the 9th grade. But since I've been incarcerated, I've obtained my GED.
And when did you get your GED?
October 2002. October 2000.
And where were you living back when you were 15 years old?
Excuse me?
Where were you living back when you were 15, when you committed this crime? Where were you living at?
In Baton Rouge.
I know, but with whom? That was a poor question. Sorry. Who were you living with?
Oh, with my father and my mother.
Tell me what happened. In your own words, please.
Could you explain the question better, sir?
Okay, I'm sorry. On December the 2nd of 1994, you robbed Legends Comic Bookstore. Tell me what you did and what happened.
I was going to a friend's house and my friend wasn't at home and I was walking down Holland Road and I came across a place of business and I entered the place of business and I walked around in the store. And after walking around in the store, I pulled a gun out, I turned my head and I shot Mr. Michael Kleban.
Mr. Riley, what were you doing with a gun?
For protection, because of the neighborhood that I was living in the neighborhood that I was going in. It was a very bad neighborhood.
Did you use drugs back then?
Yes, sir.
What kind of drugs did you use?
I smoked marijuana.
Anything else? Did you use cocaine?
No, sir.
Any other drugs?
No, sir.
How about this particular day, December the 2nd? Were you smoking marijuana that day?
No, sir.
How often were you smoking marijuana back when you were 15?
Probably once a week.
How were you doing in school at the time?
At the time, I wasn't doing as good as I would normally do.
Why? What was going on with you?
Bad influence, hanging with the wrong.
Bad influence by whom?
By the
People you
group.
were hanging out with?
Yes, sir. Bad influence by the group of kids I was hanging out with. And stuff, seeing things in my household, like my parents fighting and arguing and stuff, and not wanting to be home. So I started sneaking out of the house and hanging with the wrong group of guys, wanting to do what they do.
Tell me a little bit about your experience in prison. How old were you when you first got to Angola?
When I first came to Angola, I was around 17, 18 years old.
Tell me what that experience was like.
It was hard because it was something that I've never experienced before. I never heard of prison before, so it was my first time and it was hard. And I was getting in trouble, doing things because I had no sense of direction. I always felt like I had to prove myself, the older guys, to kind of defend myself and things like that and getting off into negative stuff. But as the time went on, I began to see that, doing those things and hanging with the wrong group of people is only get negative results. So I started doing positive things to better myself. That way, I don't stay at the same level I was when I first come to prison.
What sort of programs? You've taken a number of programs. I've seen your record. You've taken Thinking for a Change, Living in Balance, 100 Hours of Pre-Release, Victim Awareness. You were in Tier Walker training, Inside Out Dads, Malachi Dads. You got your GED. Tell me, of all of the programs that you've taken, what stands out in your mind that's helped you the most?
Victim awareness.
Tell me about that.
With victim awareness, it really helped me appreciate the value of human life. And it gave me a better understanding of empathy. And it also showed me that, no matter what, no person deserves to be victimized.
Would you say to the family of the person that you killed, if you had an opportunity to say so?
I would let them know that I'm truly remorseful for what I've done. And I'm sorry for the pain and suffering that I've caused them.
Tell me a little bit about some of the vocational things you've taken. You've taken some telecommunications, computers, fixing computers and things like that. Tell me what sort of things you've learned while you've been in prison in terms of vocational training.
but the vocational training that I took was telecommunications, and that's dealing with computers, telephones, cell phones, surround sound systems in the house, things like that, and sound systems like for a concert or something. And
You don't think that's something that you might want to do if you were released?
well, at first it was, but I've grown a deeper passion for the type of job that I have now.
Tell me about that. What's your job now?
The job I have now is I'm a healthcare nurse's aide
How long have you been doing that?
for about 3 to 4 years now.
Tell me what that entails and why you believe that's where you want to go.
Being a healthcare, it helps you to develop a deeper care and genuine concern for others, because you're helping people that really need help, that really need assistance. And you're always making yourself available to be there and to help them. And you're not looking for nothing in return. You're just doing it because that's what's in your heart.
Does that give you a good feeling of satisfaction to help people like that?
Yes, sir.
How did you get into the orderly? How did you get that job? How is it that you moved into that? Did you ask for that, or were you placed in that, or how is it that you became a healthcare orderly?
I asked for it. The guy that was the coordinator, I had seen him and I asked him, I said, man, who can I talk to get be a healthcare orderly? And he said, if you really want to be a healthcare orderly, I can help you get it.
Why did you want to be a healthcare orderly?
Because I would be walking down a walk or walking to different areas of the prison and seeing guys in a wheelchair trying to push themselves down, to try to get somewhere, and I would help them. So I just decided to take the job up.
You had a hearing back in I think 2020, June of 2020.
Yes, sir.
And you were denied primarily because you had a write-up.
Yes, sir.
So tell me what you've done since that hearing. What programs have you taken? What things have you done?
Since my last hearing, I was able to complete moral reincarnation therapy. I was able to complete Malachi Dad. I was able to obtain a trustee status. And I still have my job as a nurse's aide.
Tell me about MRT, the moral recognition training. What did you learn in that class? What did you get out of that?
I learned about the different behaviors that I was displaying, like the cognitive behavior and my social behavior, my ethical behavior, and how I can start doing positive and get positive results out of displaying positive behavior. Because at first I was displaying those behaviors in negative ways. And then moral reincarnation therapy also enlightened me on risk factors that I was facing in everyday life. And I wasn't able to identify those risk factors and address them properly.
What were some of those risk factors?
Denial, blame, justify, poor impulse control, not stressing with not coping with life stresses, negative peer group.
You were given a write-up back in July of 2018. And that was not the only reason, but that was the primary reason why you were denied the last time. What's your write-up history been since then?
I haven't gotten any since then, sir.
What is your transition plans? My understanding, you're going to be going to the parole project. Is that what you want to do?
Yes, sir.
Tell me about that. What do you understand the parole project is going to help you do?
It would help me transition back into society. From my understanding, I'll be able to attend classes AA meetings and different kind of other classes that have helped me transition back into society, and they helped me get my driver's license. They will help me find a job, and that they will always be there to assist me if I need assistance.
Once you complete that transition program, where would you hope to live?
I would hope to live with my parents for a while
Where's that at?
in East Baton Rouge Parish.
And do you wish to continue in the field of healthcare?
Yes, sir. And I would like to also get involved in organizations that help at-risk youth.
Now, it doesn't sound like you have a significant drug problem. You tell me about your drug use. I think you said you use marijuana occasionally. Have you taken any substance abuse programs while you've been in prison?
Yes, sir.
What have you taken?
AA and living in balance.
You realize the dangers of smoking marijuana?
Yes, sir.
You mentioned going to AA meetings, things like that. Is that something you intend on doing when you get out?
Yes, sir.
You've got a lot of support. A lot of people are pulling for you. A lot of people here in this room are pulling for you. There are a lot of people there pulling for you. Tell me a little bit about your family.
My family, I'm very thankful for them, because I know a lot of people, family passed away or something happened or whatever. But, I thank God that my family's been able to be here with me my entire incarceration, I thank you for their support, even though at times, growing up, it wasn't always what I wanted to see, but, I know they changed for the better also, so I just thank God for them.
What can you tell us about Mr. Riley?
So he has been working as a healthcare orderly since 2019. He went through the training. He's done well with that. He is currently a minimum C. It's also noted in you guys very well may have this, that he does have a past medical history of mental health diagnosis, schizoaffective disorder. However, there's a report that Dr. Ord, one of our staff psychologists here, did in 2020 that indicated that there was no change in his mental health or level of functioning since a previous report. And she also notes that the completion of his MRT in July of 2021. So from the standpoint of him, as far as any write-ups, back July of 18 was the last write-up that he had. You guys have that in your records as well, and know the specifics of that. But we've not had any problems with Damien since that time.
Thank you, Warden. Mr. Riley, are you on any sort of medication?
No, sir.
Questions here. Mr. Roche has a question, Mr. Riley.
No, it's not a question. I'd like to make a statement. Mr. Riley, good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Roche.
Good. Mr. Riley, I see the signs of maturity and rehabilitation. You've not had a write-up in 5 years since a write-up in 2018. You were denied because of that write-up in 2020, and you were given specific instructions to improve your programming and stay write-up free. I'd like to congratulate you. You took those instructions and did exactly what the board told you to do. It's a sign of maturity and rehabilitation. Good job.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, now we're going to hear from your supporters, Mr. Hunley.
Andrew Hunley, Louisiana Parole Project. We were with Damien for his last parole hearing. We continue to stand with him today. Our organization has a great deal of confidence in Damien's ability to be successful if he's given a second chance. But based on demonstrated growth and maturity, I don't want to belabor the points that were already made today. Clearly, Damien has extensive family support. He's put in the work. He honored the instructions that the board gave him from his 2020 hearing. And based on the empathy, authority that he has demonstrated, we feel that when he comes home to the community, he will be willing to give back in a way that will exhibit restorative justice. Our organization looks forward to providing him community support through the first phase of our program. Initially, when he comes home, we will continue providing case management for 1 year after his release.
Thank you, Mr. Hunley. Mr. Danny Jones, Jr.
Morning.
Morning.
I'd like to start off by thank you for your time. And Damien has been an exemplary sibling. Our support, but he's also been and his support is precipitated in the form of encouragement that we've heard. He's always focused on my helping me continue my education and the importance of that to society. And as I've grown into a young man, I've seen growth in Damien as well. We don't shy away from hard conversations, and he doesn't shy away from talking about his feelings and emotions, and showing these great emotional maturity and vulnerability from him. And I really appreciate everything he's done for me personally, and he's been able to lead by example as far as I'm concerned, what it means to be a
Thank you, Mr. Jones. We appreciate your comments. We now hear from the opposition. Ms. Kathy Ledoux. Ms. Ledoux, can you hear us?
She doesn't like speaking.
Oh, she doesn't. Oh. Here. And we also, Tracy Barbera with the East Beverage Parish District Attorney's Office.
Is my computer gone back?
We got you. No, you're good. We can hear you.
I understand why Kathy doesn't want to speak this morning. I've been monitoring the hearings, and to belabor the point of what these hearings do to the victims is not what I want to do right now. You as members of the board know exactly what these hearings do to the family members. I was at the scene that night. I was with Michael's family throughout this proceeding, throughout the trial, and have been with them over the years as things developed. When the Supreme Court made their decision, as the clemency hearing, the pardon hearings have taken place, and I stand with Michael's family today. We do maintain our opposition. I've spoken with Kathy about this several times, and I have done my best to prepare her for what I believe is going to happen today. I still struggle with what Mr. Riley said this morning about why he had that gun. He had been in that comic store before. There was no danger to him in that Legends comic book store that night. Back in 1994, there was no danger in that area of Highland Road where he was living. Perhaps there was, but the only thing for him in the store that night was a man who was his friend, who had been kind to him in the past. And only Damien Riley knows why he went into that store with that gun. Michael would have given him anything that he needed to help him. That's the kind of man that Michael was. I remember Miss Marilyn, Michael's mom, sending me a note after this. As some of y'all may know, this jury sent back a note with that verdict saying, please give him the benefit of any leniency the law allows. I was very respectful of that jury for expressing their opinions and following the law. And that's basically why we're all here now. We're following the law. And Mr. Riley struggled with following the law while incarcerated. One of the things I argued at his hearing before Judge Anderson was that he had repeatedly accessed cell phones, and that he used that because he wanted to communicate with his family. And I heard Mr. Roche and Mr. Marabella talk about that in a previous hearing about individuals who continued to access contraband. Bottom line is, yes, Mr. Riley has done the things that the board asked him to do since our last hearing. If it is your decision to release him today, my only hope and prayer is that he follow the law, and that he not do anything at all that would mess up what was the foundation for the Supreme Court making this decision in the first place. I am not speaking to Mr. Riley. I hope he is listening. I'm speaking to the members of the board. Please put every possible condition upon him. I know Mr. Hunley and his project has done amazing things. I unfortunately know there have been some people who've gone into the project that have not done what they needed to do. And I do pray that Mr. Riley is one of those people. But again, I stand with Kathy, I stand with Michael's family today, and we remain opposed to his release. We do respect the law, and we respect the procedure, and we respect the members of the board for your decision this morning. Thank you.
Mr. Riley, is there anything you'd like to say before Ms. Hogan closes out?
Yes, sir. I take full responsibility for the wrong that I've done. There's no justification or any excuses for that terrible, senseless decision I made that night. I had no right to take Mr. Michael Kleban's life. And I'm truly remorseful for my actions. And I apologize to Mr. Michael Kleban's family for the pain and suffering that I put him through. And I just want to thank the board for allowing me the opportunity to say that.
Thank you, Mr. Riley. Ms. Hogan?
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Marabella. Just very briefly, this is a Miller Montgomery parole hearing, and so looking at the demonstrated maturity and rehabilitation of Mr. Riley over the last 28 years, it's clear that it's there, especially perhaps no better indicator of that is his work as a healthcare orderly. It's a job he volunteered for. It's a thankless job. He is one of 9 orderlies in a medical dorm that cares for approximately 45 different medically needy patients. He does everything as far as spending time with people, playing Scrabble and chess with them, to wheeling them and helping them take a shower, to feeding them, to making sure that they have their medication. His shift begins at 4 in the evening and ends at 4 in the morning. And he frequently volunteers to pick up other shifts when other people can't do their shifts. So I think that that is a profound indicator of demonstrated maturity and rehabilitation, as is the fact that he earned his GED in 2000, long before he had any hope of release, and that he began taking courses and getting involved in things long before there was ever a Miller decision by the Supreme Court. It shows that the rehabilitation is genuine. He is a low risk of recidivism, according to Tiger, if he were to be released. He has the full support of the Parole Project and a community of people as well, including his family. So for all of these reasons, we would ask the board to grant Mr. Riley's parole with any conditions that are deemed appropriate. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hogan. Board ready to vote? Mr. Riley, And I've listened very intently to everything that you've said today. I actually listened to the last oral hearing that you had. We had it in our packet, and I listened to the entire hearing a couple of days ago. We have the opportunity to listen to victims, but oftentimes when we listen to victims, they're strangers to us, and we hear their pain, but we don't really see it, perhaps. Ms. Barbera has been a longtime friend of mine. I see the pain that she suffers as a result of this. I can't imagine the pain that the family went through with the senseless crime that you committed. It really is devastating. Although you were 15 years old, responsibility as an adult, you find yourself here in prison so many years later. As I often say at these hearings, the crime itself, the effects on the victim, are factors that we must take into account when we make our decisions. We have our own individual roles of what we have to do. My role today is to determine whether or not you have changed sufficiently to have rehabilitated yourself and can move back into society without danger to society and be a productive citizen. You were denied the last time in 2020. You were given some instructions by the board or some suggestions by the board of things to do. You did all of these things. You haven't had a write-up since then. You've taken MRT, you've become a trustee, you continued in your healthcare work, you've taken Malachi Dads, you have a low risk, you have a very good transition plan with the Parole Project, and you have a lot of family support. I hope you never forget what you did. And I hope, as Ms. Barbera points out, that you honor the man that you killed by staying arrest-free, conviction-free, and a productive citizen. My vote today, it would be to grant your parole with the following special conditions. You report to the Louisiana Parole Project, you obtain a substance abuse evaluation, follow whatever treatment is recommended, that you obtain a mental health evaluation, follow whatever treatment is recommended, to perform 5 hours of community service work per week, per month, but after you've been out for about 3 months. I also want you to be on a curfew, 9 p.m. to 6 a.m. Every day. I want you to be randomly drug tested for the first 6 months. I'm with one vote, and that's my vote. Mr.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Riley, do you know who DA Tracy Barbera is?
Yes, sir.
He just gave you a message. Did you get the message?
Yes, sir.
Hopefully you will be a productive member of society who will be an asset to society, and you will follow all rules and regulations of that society. My vote is the same as Mr. Marabella's, with the same conditions and for the same reasons. Good luck.
Mr. Riley, you did a great harm to the community. You've healed yourself, and now you've been helping others. You're aware of others. You care about others. And that's all we can ask of you for what you've done at age 15. You've done that. The challenge now is to maintain it, My vote is to grant as well, and I concur with all the special said by Ms. Mel Bella. And I would like for that community service to involve young people, like you had said, at-risk youth. You can talk to some 15-year-olds and get to them where others cannot. That's how I wish you well.
Thank you.
On to you, Mr. Riley. You have 3 votes to grant your parole with the conditions to the Louisiana Parole Project, and the other conditions is outlined. So good luck to you.
Thank you.
Thank everybody who participated.
Thank you.
Well, let's unpack this. I could use a water too. What we have just seen is the end of what has been a long legal chapter, something that has gone through the Supreme Courts and in the media. And hopefully this is the end of that chapter and the beginning of a new chapter. For Damien Riley. I'm going to put the links in the description that I'm reading now. What's interesting about this case is because it had so much notoriety, there is quite a lot of information and pictures. I'll read some of it. So more than 23 years ago, that's at the time that this was written. It's more than 23. This was written in 2018 when the Supreme Court resentenced him from life without parole to life with parole. So more than 23 years ago, 15-year-old Damien Riley walked into Legends Comics and Sports Cards store, browsed through the cards, then aimed his gun at the back of the head of 41-year-old store owner Michael Kleban, who was sitting at the counter listening to his radio. So a comic book store owner who's just listening to the radio. It's pretty amazing on that note that Tracy, the prosecutor, was there since day one of this. Remarkable, huh? Since day one. Today, Judge Richard Anderson in the 19th Judicial District Court in East Baton Rouge could revise life sentence because in a series of decisions by the U.S. Supreme Court, those rulings found that adolescents are less culpable because of their still developing brains and ability to change. I think he was 15 years old. What was going on in his head at 15? There is some more evidence we're going to read, which further puts into question his story of why he got a weapon for defense. And I'll explain why. It's a little sketch. I could believe a 15-year-old wanting a weapon for defense, but I mean, not that it's justified, but like 15-year-olds do stupid things, right? Just might think it's cool. But there's some things he did here which is just sketchy. In 2016, the most recent decision justice ruled that Louisiana and other states must apply for the court's previous rulings about juveniles and mandatory life sentences retroactively to prisoners like 71-year-old who would spend half a century for murder and inmates with life without parole sentences like Montgomery and Riley, who had committed crimes as juveniles, must now be given a meaningful opportunity to have their sentences reconsidered. This is no small task. Okay. In June, Judge Anderson changed Montgomery's life sentence to life with the possibility of parole. Parole hearing is tentatively scheduled for next month. So he's been rejected. And now we saw one where he's finally been approved. Riley killed Kleban with one shot in the back of the head in the night in December 1994. He ran off with the wad of the store's money, so he stole, before he was caught by police. He soon confessed to what he had done, and he led detectives to the Stallard Arms Maverick pistol he'd thrown in a nearby canal, and they have a picture of it, of them fishing the gun out. Telling him he'd paid $20 for the gun and a single bullet. And that's where, again, the sketchiness comes in. He bought one bullet. Either he was lying about buying one bullet, which I doubt. He only had enough money to buy one bullet, and he really didn't put much thought into it at the time. Or he bought one bullet to actually assassinate this guy. $20 for a gun and a bullet. Who really knows? A 15-year-old. There could be other scenarios. He could have got ripped off buying it. He could have literally only had enough money for that. Maybe he bought more. Like, who knows? But that is just an interesting factor, I thought, at least. Maybe I'm harping on it too much. There was no question about Riley's guilt, about murdering the beloved community merchant. After listening to the evidence during Riley's trial and hearing his taped confession, the jury was reluctant to put him away for life, even though it had voted 11-1. Louisiana allows non-unanimous verdicts in certain criminal cases. Apparently this one, to convict him. We all felt like this young man, the instant he did it, was like, oh my God, what have I done? Jury, for a woman, Kelly Troth told a local media time. I don't know what that means. They felt that way? Why did they feel that way? The judge's memories. So, judge's memories. Details of the case and its defendants are still vivid with Calloway's mind more than 2 decades later. I don't know why this kid stands out in my mind, said Calloway, who's now 78. And this was 5 years ago. So he's older now. This kid just seemed different. He was mild-mannered. He looked young and innocent. He looked like a baby. He's 15. He was a baby. Calloway, who had long volunteered with youth in his spare time, said he didn't see a predator sitting in the defendant's table. He saw an adolescent who probably had no idea what he was doing. He didn't see Riley as incorrigible. Who goes in to rob someone with a gun with one bullet? Well, that bullet comes up again. I hear that too. If you were intentionally you'd be nervous, right? I don't know. But Calloway's hands were tied. Louisiana law required life without the possibility of parole for anyone convicted of second-degree murder. I was obligated to follow the law, he said. This is interesting. Statewide prosecutors ended up seeking life sentence for 84 of the state's remaining 255 juveniles with life sentences, roughly 1/3 of the cases. Yeah, I'll post this. Let's see. Seeing if Tracy is quoted in here. No. So yeah, I don't know. What do you all think about this? 15-year-old who does something that is so bizarre, and it seems he came from a great family. His parents are still married. They were married at the time. They seem to love him. He's not gonna he's not going to recognize the world he goes back to. Can you even imagine it? It's like he was 15 when he left in the 90s, and he's going to come back and it's going to be like, what is going on? What is going on? It's going to be like transporting to some different planet in a spaceship, like taking a time machine to the future. He didn't tell his parents about the man. What is this? Is this a different case? Also, according to Moore, that district attorney summarized Riley's life. The idyllic way is a signal that moments life overlooked. It's not all peaches and cream, said his mother. I'm not a psychiatrist, but there's a lot going on. Yeah, there's more to this article, but I think we've covered enough of that. I'm trying to think how I feel about this, and I think that he absolutely should get out. He was 15. He served a heck of a lot of time, and he was 15. And we don't understand what is going on in the mind of a 15-year-old with the gun. Certainly not just rooting, needing for him to just do incredibly well. And this will have a big impact on not just his life, his family lives, his victim's life, but potentially the future of many others who are locked up as a juvenile. No pressure. Anyways, love to hear your thoughts on this. I really do. These are the cases that I just devour the comment section, especially because it's intense. And I can easily be, I shouldn't say easily, but I'm open to being swayed on my opinions. With that, I will let you go.